So what you are basically doing is successfully modify a tenant with allocated. So does it mean that, I mean, what type of attributes you are modifying for a tenant? I mean, how does it relate to any OpenStack or VSD construct? If it is not, I mean, is it done by at the Anuta layer and they manage some tenant attributes?
Okay, like you can assume I have a VM provision in the tenant environment, and later I want to increase the memory or CPU of the VM. That could be one use case. And the second use case from the VNF perspective is okay. I need a second load balancer for. I want to spin up a second load balancer instance for certain applications. So that could be a second use case. But what exactly we are going to do is unaware. But probably I guess it could be an increase of VM resources. That is the most commonly used case.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so but I mean
I think so.
that is
Yeah.
coming in the later use cases. But here this category says tenant management. So in this tenant management, you are not touching anything to VM. It's more about when you create a tenant, you are giving some resources to that tenant. Like you can launch 2 load balancer or 3 firewalls or some type of quota management you guys are doing here. So it looks like uh, you get better clarity from Anuta guys on.
Buddhiman, you have any clarity on this? On the item 1.2?
No, I don't have this information from Anuta yet.
Okay.
Okay.
So I think we need to get better aligned here that what exactly they are trying to do here. Okay.
So,
Okay.
can I ask who has the action to follow up with Anuta or whoever to get better clarity on 1.2?
Um, I will find it out from the Anuta
Uh,
Rishi.
Sadiq, I think the Puravi from Manata is coming to Singapore in Monday afternoon. I think
Okay.
we can find out from him.
Okay.
Yeah, but did I hear Sadiq saying he'll take the action to find out?
Yes, I will take
Okay.
the second to
Okay.
find out.
So then comes the role management stuff. So see the role management from OpenStack point of view and VSD is completely disconnected. And first of all, OpenStack role management is very preliminary stage. So what type of role management Anuta is thinking about here? Is it their own role management system? They have their own way of filtering because when we look into our NFED product, they have their own role management concept. They don't rely on the Vim or the other components. So
So you can assume in a current domain, so you may have VNF components and you have applications running, you have systems running. So the EA will have full access to all the components inside the domain, and the network admin will have access only to access the VNF functions, either modify, change, or create. And from applications perspective, only the application administrator will have rights only to manage the VMs.
yeah, but I mean, who is enforcing those roles? Is Anuta enforcing those roles, or is Anuta relying on underlying identity
No,
management system?
so Anuta has the identity management system.
Oh,
So
Anuta
we
has
need to
its
create.
own.
Yeah, so based on the input what they get from the customers, they will try to map it to the VSD RBAC, rollback access control.
Okay, so that's okay for VSD side, but again, the point is that VSD side role management stuff is applicable at the org level. It's not applicable at the domain level. So double check on that.
Okay, for 1.4. Okay.
And secondly, if you are relying on any of the OpenStack keystone based role management, that is another big concern that there are no such great role management features in OpenStack as of today. So I mean, I can agree that okay, you have some networks thing you can do it from VSD, but when it comes to stopping a VM, shut down VM, because those are all Nova calls, right? So how are you going to do role management there?
So Sadiq, do you understand the constraints of both HCG as well as VSD and what the role that Anuta has to take?
I'm not getting the complete picture.
No. So the tenant user, these are the models. I believe it's an object within Anuta layer, right? And then it translates to what is it in VSD and what is it in OpenStack.
Yep.
Now these constructs of OpenStack and VSD can be controlled through roles. Now these roles, where exactly those roles are defined, are those roles defined in Anuta layer, and they are trying to check a user whether he has got that role at that layer. I mean, the authorization is happening at somewhere in Anuta system, not using any VSD or any OpenStack API. If that is true, so I'm
Okay,
not concerned.
understood.
I'm not concerned about it. But
Yes.
if they are delegating this to identity components of OpenStack and some VSD components of DCN, then I have a concern that they are not properly or aligned here.
Sadiq, I think the action for you is to go back to Anuta and ascertain what exactly do they require from Hillian Carry Grade / OpenStack and or VSD to execute this particular test scenario.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, they require or not.
Yeah,
And,
first of all,
yeah,
First,
because I mean,
I think I need to ask them at whether the authorization stops at the orchestration level, fronting the
Exactly.
customer, or it has to be mapped back to the VSD layer, OpenStack layer. I need to ask them. That is the
Perfect.
okay. I got it.
Perfect. Yeah.
Okay.
correct.
Lucy, this is Masaki. Do you have any best practice for the role management? For instance, the Telefonica use case, right?
So the role management for the Telefonica use cases were all done at the orchestration layer.
Orchestration, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because when you deal with multi-vendor components, right? So they don't have exact models everywhere, and therefore something has to be done common at the orchestration layer so that the user doesn't even cross the orchestration layer if he is not authorized to do it.
You mean the DCN and also the OpenStack role management is not available. Only the NFV orchestrator is responsible for the role management, right?
That's right. That's right.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay, so we'll jump to, no, I think we're still on 1.5. So are there any requirements? So I mean, there are users getting created. So again, it goes about who does all this authentication and authorization work for a user, for a role. So when it comes to users, okay, I can go and create users. So are you expecting these users to be created in Keystone? Are you expecting these users to be created in VSD orgs for specific roles? So those are the things, I mean, it will be a good idea to check with them, because they're typically the way NFV director has, I mean, our product which orchestrates is that they are using users which are LDAP bound. So it retrieves or it authenticates to the LDAP for every user. And Keystone is also configured to get authentication from LDAP. So that way, all the authentication is happening from a central place. But for VSD connectivity, they are using the service users only. There's no dedicated user for, or there's no different users for each type of work. So it's very much internal of how they are talking to VSD and OpenStack. but for the end user who is accessing orchestrator, they will see that they are logging using their account. Okay, so we need to check what level of transparency Anuta is putting in here. I mean, are these users directly getting authenticated, authorized at the OpenStack identity management layer, or they have their own management identity management system?
Server systems. Okay.
Same thing goes for deleting a user account. So I would say that all these roles and identity you are going to get back with more information from Anuta, right?
Yeah, yep. So if Anuta has the identity management database or servers, and if they have their own LDAP, and easily they can manage it from the orchestration level instead of trying to map it back to the OpenStack or the VSD.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is that going to make simpler?
I mean, it's going to make simpler, but then a lot of work is at the orchestration layer. But if they already have such subsystems inside their layer, I mean, it's good to have.
Okay.
But at the same time, we also want to understand is that one of the things which we figured out from overall NFVD implementation is it's not very much OpenStack aware. I mean, it was masking every other feature of Keystone within their own layer. So are we saying that we are building another Keystone using Anuta, or we are leveraging all the features of Keystone? So you need to understand what level of integration they need with Keystone. If they don't need anything, that's also fine. But in a futuristic sort of architecture point of view, it's like, I mean, you have to always rely on such orchestration layer to do such stuff. But if they rely on Keystone for some other purpose, then the question comes that what type of reliance they have on Keystone. I mean, are they expecting some features from Keystone that we don't have? So those are the things, I mean, we'll be interested in knowing it, and we're ahead of time so that it should not be a surprise for everyone.
Regarding
Sadiq and team, just a quick question. So someone mentioned that Anuta will be meeting with you guys on Monday or some such time. So would it make sense to have a quick conversation on these specific ones with Rushi at a suitable time next week, if Rushi is available? Or do you guys want to discuss with them first and then, if required, have a follow-up session with us?
Sanjeev, I will check with Josh. I think it's better we have a call and nail it out with them online.
Yeah, that way you don't have to do translations. Yeah. Okay.
Rushi, one question.
For guidance and advice on that, okay, and then we'll take it up appropriately.
Rushi, this is Subbu. One question related to what you said in the Unica test case is, so if the orchestration layer has the authentication mechanism, did you also do some kind of a syncing at any time interval which actually syncs up any tenant or any construct created at the OpenStack level into the orchestration? Something like that was also desired, or that level of integration was not desired?
No. So first of all, I mean, the NFVD is not doing any authentication stuff. It is, as soon as a user logs into a NFVD portal, the user gets authenticated through the backend that is like Active Directory. Okay. So now user got authenticated. Now what happens is then it goes and checks what role this user has. So that role authorization is again in the NFVD layer. It's nothing to do with Active Directory. Okay. And then when a real OpenStack call happens, then for example, if that user is launching a VM, that time the OpenStack user is completely different than the user who is logged in on the NFVD portal. So they are using a Vim. The Vim interface is through a service user. So that user is fixed. I mean, whether the user at the portal level is A, B, or C, but when it goes to OpenStack, it is always a service user. So that way, what happens is they do partition it based on OpenStack projects, but the same service user is creating VMs and everything in every other OpenStack project.
Okay.
I mean, it's not an ideal implementation, but I would say that there should be a 1:1 mapping. Like when a user really launches a VM, OpenStack should also see that user launching a VM rather than translating it to a service user.
Okay.
Okay, so otherwise, see all other stuff like creating service template and all the stuff. Those can be orchestrated through NFVD, Neutron APIs, and here there is a big assumption that these are all VXLAN overlay networks. So nowhere in your use cases or test cases you are thinking about VLAN tenant networks. If it is true, then we have to raise the concern now.
So Ruchi, one quick question. 2.1, you said using NFVD. So there is no NFVD in this picture, right? So.
Oh, sorry.
Using
No. I made a big mistake. This is VST API.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
And also, okay.
Yeah.
So we're not doing OpenStack Manage, right? So because when I read Neutron APIs, that comes to my mind.
Yep. No, I mean we still have to use Neutron APIs, right? Even if it is.
Yep. Pull method.
Yeah. Okay, so I did a global replace. So any concerns on the VXLAN VLAN thing? All the VNFs, are they compatible with VXLAN overlay networks?
So far, they are compatible. We haven't seen any issues because we haven't really tested on the environment at the moment. But all the vendors confirm that they are compatible on KVMs, but except that few virtualization features are not unavailable, like SR-IOV and core pinning on certain features. Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't follow the core pinning. Can you elaborate a little bit?
No. So Tariq gave me a set of questions to check with NFV vendors. So most of them are related to the network virtualization features like SR-IOV support. Okay, volume boot, what kind of local boot or volume boot? Okay, and hyper-threading, CPU co-pinning. So these are the features, whether they do support it or not. So that was the query he asked. So I took that information I have gave it back to Tariq.
So our solution does support core pinning. It supports SR-IOV. Are you saying that the VMs don't have support?
Yes.
VMs don't have support for SR-IOV. That's fine. Okay, I can understand that.
Yep.
Because they may be missing a driver or whatever. What has the core pinning got to do with the VM? You can still pin the cores if you need to, and that's more of an infrastructure thing. So
no. I think this is Subbu. I think Sadiq is talking about the Sadiq. Are you talking about the template which we had passed on?
Yes.
Okay, so it's in a different perspective. So basically, we wanted to know if core pinning is required by the VNF. It's not that.
Oh, okay.
So it was a different context altogether. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. So we go to 3.1 then. Here it talks about management IP ranges and allocations. So are there any requirements to have management network talk to external management or monitoring servers? I mean, I can see in your diagrams that there is always M management connected to every VM.
Yeah. So the only recommend what we had from Monta Networks is a management network so that the EMS servers can license the VNF appliances and key in the device configuration either through API calls or CLI methods.
And how they are accessed on management? Is it being accessed from outside the cloud?
No, they are in the operations environment.
Okay. So there's no such need.
This is Aditya. So I think, Sadiq, shouldn't the Anuta VMs are be considered as out of the cloud typically? So the Anuta VM should be sitting outside, and they also need to access all of the VNF components by a management network, right?
No, actually they are in the management network.
Correct, and hence you'll need to have the management network span across your DCN components and outside as well.
Yes. So last time when we discussed with Michael, so we got an idea that we need to have a bridge network between the VNF management sitting on the CSP, okay, and the orchestrator sitting on management.
So Rishi, the way we are planning to do this is to have an L2 domain and
L2 exactly L2 domain.
Yeah.
Exactly L2 domain.
So basically, you are going to have a shared. So I usually use not L2 domain, but it's a shared L3 subnet shared L2 domain for.
Shared L3 subnet.
Shared L2 subnet. Okay.
No, L3 subnet.
Shared L3 subnet. Yeah, shared L3 subnet, which is actually a management, and then for each L3 domain, you are going to add an L3 subnet under public zone. So that way, your management network shows up everywhere.
Rishi, that one we haven't worked on the implementation, how to make it work. So at the moment, what we have at the high level is we will have a L2 domain. Okay, so that would be bridged on our top of rack switch, so it can be routed back to the orchestrator sitting on the management.
Okay. So I mean, we'll send you the implementation what we did for Telefonica, and where they also wanted a management network across tenants, across orgs, and that is the way it's implemented. So you may get some help from that.
Okay.
So I mean, what I'm saying is that once you say it's needed, you have to come up with some more restriction on policies, because you don't want tenant A's management network will talk to tenant B's management network.
Exactly.
So, but you also want that the orchestration should talk to tenant A and B on management networks. Yes. So these type of restrictions you have to apply through policies.
Yeah.
So very much achievable, not a problem, but it need to be additional level of settings you have to do.
Yeah, so we have discussed this, but still we haven't decided how to implement it in the DCN.
Yep. No problem. I mean, we already have a working stuff on this, so it's very easy for you guys to take it from there.
So Sadiq, why don't you quote unquote steal the template from Rishi and proceed from there? Why reinvent the wheel?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, so other than that,
so Rishi, you'll be following up on this and giving them the background on this?
Yeah, I mean, I will send you the document.
Perfect.
And I'm sure that it must be there, but if not, I will send the document.
Ushi, is it possible? I think can we have a look at can you give us a demo, a 1 hour or 30 minutes demo, what has been implemented on the Telefonica? Is it possible to arrange a meeting with the team implementing this so we can have a 1 hour discussion?
I mean, I'm not sure. I mean, you have to, I don't know how, Shantanu, I mean, you want to orchestrate this work, I mean, because NFED team is currently so busy on implementation that getting some time out of them, and how much of that is really implemented, realized, is a big question. I mean, so
Yep.
therefore, I mean, I would not really commit on their behalf.
Yeah. So precisely, if they can show us a 30 minutes 1 hour demo, so we can really find out what can be implemented and what needs to be looked into, and so that we can come out with our own design. Because at the moment, what we are doing is we are receiving documents from all the way. We are reading the documents, and we are just trying to put our brains behind it to see how this can be done in a simpler way.
I mean, what I can do on their behalf is the PowerPoint presentation which I sent you on what networking stuff we have implemented through NFVD. I can go over that, but if you want a real demo or something, I'm not at this point confident that at least the PowerPoint thing is very clear that what has been implemented. I mean, at least they have committed to that.
See, we are more focused on DCN. We are not worrying about the orchestration layer or the HCG layer. But on your slide deck, what you sent, you have all the information for NFV and orchestration. But wherever the DCN portion is coming in, you highlighted red in color, and you put some very critical thing that you need to get more information. So I couldn't get much information what I'm looking for from the slides.
Okay. So at least from the prototyping which we have done from DCN side, that we can show. Like, we can show the shared management network through DCN, how it works. Maybe what we can do is, let me circle back with Naina, because she's in Spain. She has a more visibility on what NFVD has implemented through DCN. So maybe next week we can set up a call. And then let me take this as an action item and see who can do that. Okay.
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 So I didn't go through the document in its entirety, so pardon my naive question. Are there any performance implications for expectations for the VNF VMs? And if so, what are those? And are you using SRI VPCA pass-through, or are you using just a switch?
Only this piece has performance lines, Vinod, and nothing talks about data plane performance. I mean, yes, they do talk about last 100 M data size, UDP traffic, and all the stuff.
Okay.
And I don't know what is this logicalis is. I don't know.
There was a separate on the email or original email that Dilip had sent. There was a mention about line rate performance and SRIOV, as I recall.
Yeah, but then I thought I also heard one gentleman speak a little while ago saying that the VNFs don't support SRIOV.
Yeah. So can you speak to that, please?
Hello?
We lost him. You're on mute, Saga-san.
It's okay. We can follow up later, but I'm just curious. So,
Yeah.
You're quite right.
Tariq, Vinod and Sanjeev, I believe Dilip's last email or one of the emails kind of called out SRIOV separately. I believe the point was that the VNFs don't support it, and for the primary use case, they're using SRIOV to create differentiation with the other guys, not necessarily a core use case which involves all of these VNFs. So I believe the thing was, with the VNF, let go whatever they support, but use some other way of demonstrating SRIOV, so we can talk about it, we can show it, and create differentiation.
Sure.
Okay. One more.
That's the clarification we are seeking, because you're quite right, Tariq. There was a one-liner in Dilip's email, but it's not reflected in the test cases here, I believe. So, and Masage had followed up with me. That's what I was thinking he might have more details on that.
In fact,
This is Aditya.
sorry.
Sorry, Subbu. Yeah, I mean, so we had raised this question right in the first meeting itself, and I mean, I had also asked if putting in a regular CentOS and having SRIOV and showing line rate performances and things like that, through iPerf, if that was okay, and Dilip said he would get back to me on that. So,
Okay. Thank you.
So did he get back to you?
not yet, no.
Actually, there was an Excel sheet
follow up with him and find out what needs to be done or shown.
Okay. Subbu, what were we saying?
There was an Excel sheet which was sent by Sadiq a few days earlier. I just found it. It actually has some information. I am yet to go through it actually. This was in response to the template we had sent. I think this actually tells us that.
Subbu, that is just a list of questions. The actual.
It doesn't have the answers yet?
No. So the template that we have sent or we have used in the other deals for AMX and all that part has not yet been filled, but there was just a list of questions which have been answered.
Okay. Yep. So I got the response from the vendors. I have forwarded to Tariq. So out of the 3 vendors, FI supports SRIOV, co-pinning and hyperthreading. Yeah, only FI supports it. Rest of the vendors, Checkpoint and Fortinet, they don't have it at the moment. So it's in their roadmap.
Okay. So when I see 5.3, right, in your table, which Rushi was sharing earlier, what was it? Was it Rushi sharing? In 5.3, test case 5.3. Yeah. So there says VNF network performance with all these wonderful UDP, whatever, so many packet sizes and whatnot. It says record throughput in each case and so on. So I'm guessing these are, it doesn't matter what the VNF application is, you just run through some specific test case, some benchmark or something which you pump this traffic, and you'd want to record throughput and latency. And if you're trying to compare our VRS switch with someone else's DPDK switch, I'm afraid you may not see the best performance. So keep that in mind. So that's all. So it's not your our VRS right now is the regular kernel-based OVS-based switch. It has very rich features for other purposes, but from performance point of view, it will be as good as any other classic OVS performance. It won't be great as your DPDK-enabled switch. Just keep that in mind. That's all.
So what we have on in the POC environment is not DPDK enabled OVS, is it? Is that what you're trying to say me?
Yes, if it's a NUARCH switch, that is a VRS switch. It is not DPDK enabled at the moment. Okay. In the future, there may be one, but at the moment, no.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I mentioned this point to Dilip and Masaki, that it's a roadmap item, but right now it is just OVS based switch.
If you're using a non-DCN solution, then we have a DPDK switch.
Yeah, but this is DCN. So let's not go there. This is DCN.
So I mean, typically we are saying that all this type of line rate performance use cases should be met by using SRIOV interfaces.
Correct.
Then that's fine.
Probably we can only show the F5 with SRIOV, right?
Right.
Or you can show just 2 virtual machines with SRIOV Unix and push the traffic between them or to them.
So Rishi, did we go through all of your red items?
No.
No. Okay. Let's go through it.
Okay, so we covered the 4.3.1 about management network. So we have noted the action item there. The third thing, I mean the fourth 4.1, and there's an open item that is marked as red here. Firewall to external network. So we need to get some clarity here that if you want a firewall between an external network, so external network from point of view is a floating IP network, that's what I'm considering. So between that and the VM, the private network, if you want a firewall between that, then I think there are some open issues with that. So be aware of it. So I think yesterday, Naveen, I discussed with you about how we can mitigate this by using bridge ports. But let's first, try to get this firewall thing between two private networks, and then we can talk about the external network stuff, that how it can be done. So I've looped in Manju on that thread, and I will also give you some more details about what are the workarounds for now.
Yeah, precisely. This is the main issue what I have in my list.
Yep. So let's actually take an action here.
Because without knowing this information, it would be difficult for us to finalize the VSD construct. Because at the moment we are still positioning the firewall in between the external network and the virtualized network.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So, what I'm saying is, Sadiq, that let's keep that aside and implement the other stuff where you can demonstrate easily firewall between network A and network B. So your firewall network is firewall service network is network C. So what you can demonstrate is from network A to network B, if there is a data traffic, it will be always redirected to the service network, where firewall will intercept the traffic and will send it to network B. So if we can do that as a demonstration, as a basic demonstration, then at the same time we will also think about how we can put a firewall between an external network and a network A, that is tenant network A.
Yep. So I agree with you, Rishi. Can we just give some more priority and help and advise us the workaround? If you have already given the information to Naveen, I will check with him. But if not, I think you should give more priority. You should keep this in the highest priority and give us some, advice on how to go with this workaround.
Sure. So what I can do is that we have anyway a follow-up call with Manju later this today. And then if there is a need, I can set up another call with you guys to see directly with Manju to explain if there are anything which we can mitigate, because there is a known issue with putting a firewall between external network and private network. So we need to see how we can come up with that. Okay.
So Rishi, is this issue to do with floating IPs acting as the external network, or would it also be there if we just have some kind of an L2 domain and Bridgeport as the external network, some kind of provider network kind of a thing?
Yeah. So if the mitigation plan which I discussed with Naveen yesterday was to use the second option, that is bridge network, where bridged L3 network, not L2. So that a traffic which is coming on is a legacy VLAN provider network coming in through a bridge port to your L3 domain, right? So that you can put firewalls and all the stuff.
Okay.
But when it comes to floating IPs, there are some open issues. So we need to see in which case it's going to, because that is the exact use case we dropped in Telefonica implementation. There was a bug and therefore we dropped it for now for certification purpose. We will re-implement based on, because that is getting fixed in DCN 4.0.
Okay. As far as this POC is concerned, since the design and all that is not yet finalized, if there's a problem with floating IPs, you could as well use something else for the external network. There's no restriction there.
Yep. Okay, so we'll jump to
take the path of least resistance for the POC.
Yep. And least work.
Yeah. Let's get the POC going. Let's get it successful. We win the business, then we can figure out other ways.
Okay. Now the next question is about when we launch a firewall as a VNF and load balancer as a VNF. So yeah, we are giving the end user access to those firewalls. Is that right assumption? Hello. Hello.
Sadiq, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. I'm just dropped. I'm back.
Okay.
Yeah. So the question is that we are on 4.2, and when we launch the load balancer VMs or firewall VMs, the expectation is that we launch it and then we give back some access to the end user, right? That they can go and change some firewall rules within the VM, and any rules in the load balancer they can change. So how are we providing access to the end user? Is it through Nova VNC console or through some other mechanism?
Okay, so what has been discussed is the Anuta orchestrator will communicate to the firewall manager of the respective vendors to load in the configurations or any creation, deletion, or modification of firewall rules or interface configuration. But from IP perspective, to take from the DCN.
So Rishi, I think the management network will always be available, right? For whatever access. If you can SSH, you can SSH. Otherwise, even the Nova console will be available.
No, at the moment we are not exposing that to the
end
customer
user,
externally. End user. So let's say if the customer wants to key in a new firewall policy configuration, the input would be taken by the orchestrator, okay, and it will use the 40 manager to using API calls to configure the policy into the VNF component.
Okay, good to know that. Because this is a feature we don't have in NFVD. I mean, we are giving it like a full throttle to user that take this console and do whatever you want, right? But it's good that there is a tight integration of Anuta with a load balancer or firewall so that they can execute the APIs.
Okay, so this is more of a question about additional policies coming in. How would they happen? But would that happen via the orchestrator, or would it happen via an end user accessing the console?
Okay, orchestrator. So he will key in the. Let's say you have a portal coming in, landing page, right? He will select this firewall, and he will. So probably I guess there will be a fields like key in your source IP address, key in your destination IP address, port numbers. Then that will be taken as an input and given to the firewall manager to orchestrate the firewall policy configuration into the NFV component.
So I mean, Sadiq, I would say double check on this because implementation of each and every API provided by F5 or Fortinet or something is not that trivial. I mean, we did face this issue and developing the NFVD orchestration.
But this is out of our scope actually.
Okay.
As per our engagement, right? Anything that has to be dealt with the VNF component, right, has to be managed by Logicalese and Anuta networks. So HP will not take a responsibility of that.
Okay, but it should not fall back to us saying that, oh, can you provide a vConsole or console access to those VMs and let the user log in and do this stuff. So, I mean, it's okay to say that. I mean, we can provide that. Anuta has to really remote console into this VM and provide the console to the end user and do whatever they want to make changes. But if they want to ask for a floating IP on a firewall and all the stuff, I mean, then I have a concern about how we're going to manage that.
So you're saying the backup option should be the orchestrator should give a console on the management interface,
Exactly,
right?
exactly. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I got it. I got it.
Okay, so I think the same question goes in 4.5 also, that when we say that test inter-tenant communication, I mean, at that point, how are we testing it? I mean, basically we are going inside a VM and talking to it through, I mean, how are we accessing any tenant VMs?
Okay, again, back to square one. Okay, so I still want to know whether they are using a Nova Compute to give the console, or is it from the orchestrator directly to the VMs, right? Because okay, initially I designed. Okay, usually when I worked on cloud projects, all the VMs will have a management network. Okay, so that will give console either to the vCenter, okay, to the end users. But in this POC, we never really spoke about. Since I'm taking care of VNF component, I never really looked into the VMs. Should they have two NICs, one going into data and one going to management? That I never looked into it actually. So probably I don't know how to answer to it, because if they don't have a provisioning of management network, definitely it has to be through Nova Compute console.
Okay, so will you be able to confirm this with Anuta, that what they're thinking about, or is it something it comes under our? I think it comes under our domain because it's a testing thing, right? Because they are going to test inter-tenant communication. So my preference would be that every VNF will have the management network, and you will have one VM called as a management VM, wherein you can go in from that VM to all the other tenant VMs and do some testing. So that way you avoid giving floating IP and confusing the VNFs.
Again, looking from the implementation perspective, I need to take care of the service chaining, because you have you have all the tiers segregated, right? And, okay, I got it. I got your point. So I will ask Anuta this one. I'll ask this question to Anuta, how they're going to, what is their plans, what they have thought about it.
I'm going to put my recommendation, but yeah.
But what is the best practice?
So I would say that if you don't want to really break any service chaining concept and the external, accessibility to those VMs, I would say on the shared management network, which goes across all the domains, all the orgs, you bring in a trusted VM. A trusted VM means it's going to be an VM where all your tools running and everything, right? So that VM, it's similar to what your orchestrator is going to do. Yeah.
Jump host
or something. Yeah. But it will reside in the cloud, and you should be able to go into any other VMs in any other tenant, and you will be able to talk to them. So that way, you can demonstrate that, okay, you went into Jumpbox, now you logged into user VM, and now user VM A from tenant A can talk to user VM B on tenant B. That way. So what exactly this trusted VM means? You are going to use some DCN components like network macros and all the stuff. So that will ensure that only the trusted VM can log into this tenant user VMs, and tenant user VMs cannot reach each other unless until you set the right policies to communicate within each other. Questions? Still thinking?
No, I got your point.
Okay, perfect.
Just that we haven't really looked into that.
Yep, no problem.
So very busy with other things.
There are other low-hanging things. Okay, so 5.3 we made it clear, and clearly spelled out, saying that the expectation should be very clear that when you are trying to run these network performance using normal VirtIO VNix, you should not be expecting some flying colors. Okay, and if you want to really have a line rate performance, it would be preferred to use SRIB interfaces. And that's it from my side.
Ah, perfect timing.
Yep. That was very well programmed. I did a rehearsal 5 to 6 minutes.
So Sadiq, it looks like there's some actions on your part. I think it would be good if you can consult with Josh and see if, because a lot of these action items relate to you having discussions with Anuta as to what they can and cannot do and that sort of thing. And if a meeting with Anuta is desired, we can certainly arrange that. I think Rishi will be in US next week, right? Your travel plans have slightly changed, I understand.
Yeah, it looks like, yeah.
Yeah.
I will be there for next 2 weeks, looks like. So.
Okay.
I'll be here in the US for next 2 weeks.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah. So Sadiq, so will you discuss with Josh and then get back to us as to what the plan of action is? Yeah. Okay. Perfect.
Sure. Probably I will try to arrange a meeting with Anuta and everybody with Rishi.
Yeah, so that we are all on the same page, talk the same language, and get clarified right on the spot, right? Yep. We don't have time to waste here, so.
Okay.
Okay. Perfect. So any closing thoughts, comments?
No, this was very useful actually. I think it will be beneficial for other DCN related POCs also, which are going on right now. It was very useful.
Very good. Like to hear that. Stuff we can leverage. Fantastic. Okay. Good deal.